Hello, my name is Miguel Covarrubias, and I'm the creator of Honest Faith. I started this channel, Honest Faith Interviews, as a way of getting to know our fellow human beings. I've noticed a lot recently that we tend to dehumanize each other and we tend to distance ourselves from each other through social media. As a guise of keeping in touch with each other, we tend to see words and pictures on the screen that just tend to dehumanize the other. And it gets to be so often sometimes that we forget who it is that we are in conversation with. So, through Skype and through personal face to face interviews, I decided to start asking people about their faith and talking to them about how that affects their lives and how that impacts what they do from the day to day basis. I figured that this week we would start with myself and you would get to know me a little bit. We will have interviews for the next few weeks being posted on Wednesday afternoons. So come on back, like, share, subscribe, use social media to share these honest faith stories of your fellow human beings. Without further ado, here is my own honest faith story. My name is Miguel Covarrubias and I am 33 years old.
What do people need to know about you before hearing about your faith?
Well, I am a former youth minister. I have been grown up in the Christian church and have kind of lived in a lot of this country, and so I've gotten a sense of what it is to be a person of faith in America. I feel like, and I think that's really what you need to know about me before you kind of get in concept of who I am as a faith person.
Okay. What would you say was the most significant moment in your life? Why?
The birth of my son is the most significant point of my life, and the most significant point of my life so far because of everything that I've been through with my wife and with our struggle in having children, and with all that we had been through together, it just kind of seemed like the culmination of our relationship together. And just in that moment, seeing another life that you had a hand in giving life to just was a pure moment of the divine, I think. And so that for me is why it's the most significant moment of my life.
What is your faith story?
My faith story is a very long one. I started out going to church. I was baptized as a baby, and my parents always went to church. Well, not always, but they tried their hardest to get to always be at church and always take us kids along to church to learn about faith and about God and all of Christian life. And my faith has really evolved over the course of my life. I would say that my faith story really doesn't end, and it's an ongoing journey that I have never not been working on, and so that's a little bit of double negative there, but I've always been working on my faith journey. I think that my entire life has kind of been wrapped up in my faith journey.
How did you find faith, or how did faith find you for that matter?
Well, some of my earliest memories are with my conversations with God. Like most kids, I had an imaginary friend who I always talked to, and that imaginary friend was God. I grew up knowing that God loved me and that God wanted to be in relationship with me, and so that that's really kind of how faith found me. I think was in that, was just right where I was supposed to be, was in church, I guess. So
How has your faith influenced your life?
it's been my entire life. I've always seen myself as somebody who was supposed to be doing what he was doing, was supposed to be sharing faith with others, was supposed to be telling others about this divine being that loved them, that wanted to be with them, that wanted to be in relationship with them. And I never imagined my life as anything other than that. And now being in the place that I am, it's a very, very unusual place for me, where I'm starting to see a life outside of that, but then at the same time it's also, you're never really outside of a relationship with the divine, in my opinion. So
Do you practice your faith? Why or why not?
yes, I do. And I do because I think it's important to constantly be in conversation with each other, with other human beings who are trying to find the divine. I think it's a very big part of life, is trying to find the divine in each other and in those things that are around you.
Is your faith an important part of your life?
Yes.
What is the hardest thing to believe about your faith?
The hardest thing to believe about my faith is I would definitely say that there is, I think the hardest thing to believe about my own faith as a Christian is that there is only one God. And I have a very complicated and roundabout reason for that, but that's obviously another story for another day.
What do you feel is the biggest issue facing your faith, both corporately and personally?
Personally, the biggest issue facing my faith right now is, if God loves me, why do I have to keep going through such hard times? And that is a long story for another day. But that personally, I think is my biggest trial right now, is believing that God loves me. I know it, but believing it is a completely different thing. Corporately, I think what's facing the Christian faith right now, the biggest problem facing the Christian faith, is that it's too caught up in the presentation of our faith. Is that our worship on Sunday mornings has become about entertaining people rather than actually engaging with our faith.
Is your faith the one you grew up with? What is different?
No, I grew up as a very evangelical Christian, and now I am more mainline denominational, which, if you know the difference of the two kind of sides of that faith, then you know what the difference is there. But the biggest difference is that I am not as overtly passionate about my faith as I once was.
Growing up, did your family attend a place of worship regularly?
Yes.
How is your faith different from your parents' faith?
I'm not so sure that it is very different from my parents' faith, but I think that my parents come from two very different worlds, and the combination of where my parents came from and how they kind of dealt with the issues that they were faced with as parents, as human beings, that they did the best that they can, and I think that's ultimately what I'm doing, is trying to do the best that I can with what I have.
What would you like the divine to tell you when you finally speak face to face?
Welcome home.
What do you think the divine cares about the most?
I think the divine cares about the divine's creation the most, and I think ultimately that's what we should be about as Christians, as people of faith, is caring for all of creation in the way that the divine would care for all of creation. I likened it, when I worked with teenagers, I likened it to when you create something, that you kind of have this love for it, that you want to see the best things happen to it. You want people to appreciate it the way that you do. And I think that's ultimately what the divine cares about and what we should care about.
If you could change one thing in the world, what would it be?
The way that human beings treat each other and the world around them. I wish they would be better about it.
If there was one piece of wisdom that you could impart to the world, what would it be?
I think it would be love. Love as if every human being was your family. Love as everywhere that you are is your home. I think that would be the one piece of wisdom that I would impart.
Do you have any regrets regarding your faith?
I do, many, and it's mostly having to do when I was younger. I attended a youth program when I was younger that was all about evangelizing, and it was in a way that was belligerent and bullheaded, and I feel like a lot of the time I regret those moments, because I feel like I may have turned somebody off to faith. And granted, that gives myself a whole lot of power, but with just the person that I am, I tend to overthink things a lot. And yeah, I feel I regret turning somebody off to faith, turning somebody off to a God that loves them.
Who is your faith role model?
C.S. Lewis, because as he so often put it, that he was the reluctant convert, that he was brought to the Christian faith kicking and screaming, and I love a lot of what he thought, that he thought outside the lines for a lot of traditional Christian faith.
Do you have anything else you want to tell us about your faith?
I would say that my faith is ever growing, is ever changing, that what I believe today is different from what I'm going to believe tomorrow, and what I believed yesterday is different from what I believe today.
Moving on to current events. Have there been any personal struggles that have had you question your faith?
Yes. In particular, when I wrote this question, it was I didn't want to be very negative in my phrasing of it, and in essence, I was asking about those major issues that cause people to divide from their faith, where it be their sexual orientation or their gender orientation or their mental identity, how they saw themselves. And for me, as a cisgendered, white-skinned male, I didn't really have a whole lot of that to deal with, but as a Hispanic man, I did. race tended to be a bigger issue than I let it be. I tried to downplay it a lot, but it ended up coming up quite a bit in my life of faith, and I would say it's really been a struggle for me to reconcile some of the way that the church treats people of different ethnicities, and so I think that that ultimately has been a struggle that has had me question my faith.
Have you reconciled those struggles? Or are they ongoing, or are they an ongoing conflict in your faith?
Yes, they are an ongoing conflict in my faith.
How has that changed your approach to faith?
I think I am much more sympathetic now to those who have had uncommon struggles with their faith, with people who, are Catholics, and the majority of growing up, those were the people that we witnessed to. Our evangelical aims were at those who were Catholic, and it's unusual now to think that I thought that those who were Catholic and Protestant were so different, whereas now I'm I am an Episcopal, which means that I am both Catholic and Protestant at the same time. So,
Has your faith informed your political views? How so?
yes, they have, because I believe that my faith has informed all of my life. But I think that ultimately, the person that I am, I want to enact my faith in everything that I do. And so therefore my voting process is going to be in line with my beliefs, my faith.
Since we are coming upon the 2016 U.S. presidential election, has your faith informed your choice of political candidate? How?
Yes. My political candidate is the person that I feel is going to be helpful in my process of trying to help other people out, is the person that I feel that will be able to help people the most. And in my own opinion, that is one candidate over the other. Not saying which, because I want people to watch my channel, but I would guess.
Has your faith driven you to want to make the world a better place? Why or why not?
Yes, because I think that's what faith does. Faith is the catalyst. Faith, as Frederick Buechner put it, faith is homesickness. It's the lump in the throat. It's something. It's that desire to make things just like the home that you know it should be. It's I'm a huge nerd, and so I once put it this way: is that for everything that you are a huge fan of, those things that you belong to those fandoms, like for instance with Harry Potter, and some people are homesick for Hogwarts, some people are homesick for Endor. Some people are homesick for these places that don't really exist, and I liken to that faith is that homesickness for this heaven, for this ideal existence for all things, and so it drives me to want to make the world like that, to be a citizen of heaven here on earth.
Do you know if your corporate faith has a disaster relief arm or a charity working in areas that need help?
Yes, Episcopal Relief and Development does fantastic work. In fact, the majority of the funds that they bring and go to helping out the places that are experiencing emergency disasters and their relief. They do fantastic work.
Have you heard about what is going on right now in the Caribbean with Hurricane Matthew?
Yes, particularly because I wrote this question. But and I've also brought up Syria as well, as that there's a lot of pain going on in the world right now.
If you could go and help out these people, would you? Why or why not?
Yes, I would. And it's mainly because with my faith, I believe that every human being is a sibling of mine. Every human being is family to me. And it pains me when I hear about these things that are going on. And the truth is that there's always something else going on. There's always more pain going on in the world. And unless you kind of filter it out, you can really suffer some major empathy overload.
What is preventing you from going to help?
Right now, I don't know. And to be completely honest, I think that it's the American dream that got mixed up with Christianity. And it's that our desire for stuff in the Western faith has really screwed things up, I think. And I think, to be honest, because I'm selfish, because I want to make sure that my family's okay. I want to make sure that I'm all right financially, and honestly, I think that's, to be completely honest, I think that's what's stopping me.
What current event troubles you the most? Why? Does your faith provide any answers for this?
The biggest thing troubling me right now is Syria, is the way that we treat refugees in the world. The thing that I can't get out of my mind is those pictures of those children, of the one child who was washed up on the beach, and the one who was injured by the bombing, and it's just, it kills me. As a brand new father, I those images haunt me the most.
Do you believe the U.S. was founded as a Christian nation?
No, I do not. Because it was founded by deists. The majority of the people who founded our country were people that were trying to separate from the Church of England, the people who were trying to separate from major Christian faiths around the world, as well as those who wanted no more religious persecution. So they, in essence, founded a country that was not Christian. Was open to being a country of all faiths.
What are your views on American exceptionalism? Do you believe it exists? Do you believe Christians should be pursuing this?
No, I do not believe that American exceptionalism exists. I do not believe that we should be striving for this idea that we are the new Zion, that we are the new chosen people of God. I mean, there are some other countries that do this way better than us. There are some countries that I think are, I would say maybe God chose them over us. But I know that doesn't exist, because we are all God's creations, that every single country on this planet is God's creation, and one is not better than the other.
What are your views on the First Amendment?
I believe that everybody has a right to speak their voice, because everybody has an opinion. Everybody should be able to be authentically who they are. And I know that that means that we're going to be conflicting a lot because we all have different opinions, we all have different viewpoints, and that's okay. And that's what I think the problem is with the First Amendment, is that everybody thinks that they have a right to have their opinion be heard and enacted upon, and that's not what I think the First Amendment said. The First Amendment is, in essence, is allowing everybody to speak their opinion, not for it to be the one opinion that is enacted and acted upon.
How do you see America, you, your church, progressing in religious competence?
I think that it's always 2 steps forward, 1 step back. I think for almost every faith in this country that we move forward, but we stumble a lot. And I think we've got a problem with failure in this country. And it's the way I was raised too. It's the way that a lot of us were raised, was that we have a major problem with failing. We have a major problem with not being incredible in our first try, and it's not the way it works. Is that we have to be okay with falling flat on our face and picking ourselves up and dusting ourselves off and trying again and going at it again. That's why I admire Abraham Lincoln, was because the Emancipation Proclamation was not his first idea. It was like his 42nd. And so I think he kept trying to figure it out. He kept trying to figure out this problem. And ultimately I think that's how I see us progressing, is that we are moving, but sometimes in the wrong direction. Thank you very much for watching, and again, like I said earlier, like, share, subscribe. All the buttons are around this area, and I hope that you enjoy. Please give feedback. All comments and suggestions are appreciated. The email is there somewhere. If not, it is honestfaithconvos@gmail.com. Again, I could put that into a little annotated box like here or something. And just let us know. Also, if you would like to be interviewed, please let me know, and I'll set something up with you. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next week.